It's my sweet for you, my girl. Tell me a G for life. I let the light. Oh, yes. You're welcome on Black Hot Fire Network. Good evening. Today is the 22nd of May 2023. You're welcome. It is 12 minutes past 6 p.m. here in Kampala. The weather is good today, but it's going to be hot in here, but yeah. Today we are going to discuss about the Namibia genocide. It's a very painful and, of course, disheartening topic today as we discuss the over 16 million people who were exterminated by the Germans in, of course, Namibia. I'll take you through the story and how everything happened. For those who are just joining us, you're live on Black Hot Fire Network with me, Africa Maria, from Kampala, Uganda. Actually, in the 20th century, that is 30 years before Hitler came into power. Of course, it is a 100-year story of genocide implications in Namibia. Now, German, of course, has the highest level of genocide implication in Africa because this genocide that accounts in Namibia, actually, as I go on to explain to you how everything happened, you realize that the moment the Harari people started rebelling against the German people, the Germans started uprising and causing these genocides in all the territories they used to occupy. And of course, Tanzania was a man because German had part of the East Africa, had part in the Western Africa, and of course, the southern part of Africa, in Namibia, to be precise. Of course, German had its hand in Togo, Cameroon, East Africa, and German West Africa. Now, let's dive right into the story and how it began. Now, we know Africans were killed at the dawn of 20th century in concentration camps at that time. Soldiers were given orders to kill every Herero person who was living in Namibia. Now, a lot of people, when they hear Namibia, the first thing that crosses their mind is the bush people. And actually, I recall some people are trying to say that the Namibian people are very, very few. Like they don't have a high, population rate in Namibia. But actually, more especially when it comes to the Herero people in the Kalahari Desert, if you all watched this movie of the bush, yeah, Dwight Davidson is right in a building. I was trying to text you. You're welcome, Dwight Davidson. Thank you for coming through. Thank you for coming through. Yeah, you told me to call you, so I was trying to call you the first time I tried to come and inform you that the girls were in the studios, but you were not online. So yeah, I'm glad that you have managed to come through. Thank you for coming through. So we know that the soldiers were given orders to kill everyone, okay, in Namibia. Now this was an overall strategy aiming at ethnically cleansing the countryside to create a liberation. Now we know one thing that during that time, German was German had a lot of people, and the increase of people in the German, or to say the German population was high, was at a rapid rate compared to the land that the Germans had. So these people knew that since we have the Germans, people are growing now and then, and their piece of land is not so big, and of course, and having the power to colonize, Africa, the German people thought to eat that. How about if we get some land down in Africa? Of course, they found like the Herero community was fit for them, and they chose, of course, to come down here and of course, demand land from the Africans. Now, in 1884, we know as the delegates from all the great powers of Europe gathered in the imperial capital of German, that's Berlin, and parties of Africa, of course, and actually they had, of course, played a very, very good role in the scramble of Africa. Those are the German people at the time, and we know that these people in 1884 they came and sat in a meeting, that is in a conference that is in Berlin, German, to discuss how they are going to partition and divide Africa among themselves. We had the French people, we had the German people, we had the British, and and everyone who had part into Africa's division and partition over rule. So of course at that time German had a very huge impact on controlling Africa. Now these very German people needed Africa's land to prosper, because for them Africa was a good place for them. We see that in 1903, of course, 4,000 German settlers had favored, Namibia over New York. Because at the time we know that we had some German people in the US, and but of course 4,000 settlers had favored Namibia over New York. So they were voting to settle in Namibia over New York. First of all, they would have, of course, wanted to settle in other African countries. But if you remember, Namibia was a territory of the very, very huge part of land, and the German people, of course, loved to rear cattle. So they found that if our farmers come down to Africa, more especially will be able to carry out their farming, that is rearing their cattle, and of course expand the legacy of the German people, and of course become powerful. Now, of course, the best land in Namibia at that time belonged to, the Bafomadibe. The Afomadibe people who were in the Herero in Namibia. And then with the powerful leaders of the Herero people, the settlers treated Africans with impunity, because these Herero people had their leaders, and they were so very, very, traditional. If you see a lot of these people till today, the Namibian people are still so very, concerned in, even though we are seeing some of them come out. And this story, you will see that a lot was done to the people of Herero at that time. And since now the German people wanted to evict these people out of this land, first they started raping the women forcefully raping these Namibian women, the Herero women. They started killing their children. They did not care, but their mission was to cause chaos, actually. So that probably, because at that time, people could act on command. So they went ahead. So these Herero people had to send, of course, a complaint, and they were like, "You guys, it's okay. You are on our land, but people, they of their eye, you know, like we are not and all to brand our land, we got our I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry, my network is disturbing. Um, Let me see. What is this? 257. Let me see. Sorry, my internet is. I hope it doesn't cross. So right now, poets for station break. Sorry. Sorry, Chipijaba. My internet was disturbing. So I'm still, I'm using a hotspot. So my Wi-Fi, my data got finished from the Wi-Fi, and then as I was trying to load some more data, then the network was not allowing me to load more data on my Wi-Fi. So I'm using my phone. I'm connecting it I'm hotspotting my phone with my laptop. But I guess my internet will be back on my Wi-Fi. So with the phone, it's always disturbed. Yeah, I know that for sure. But sorry for that short break, like you call it. So sorry. So back to our Namibia genocide story. As the Africans in Namibia at that time, very naive, and they had given in, uh, to the control of the German people, and but the way the German people were treating the people in Namibia at that time, raping their women, killing, and all doing all impunities, the Namibian people got fed up actually, and they started rebelling against these very colonizers. Those were the Germans at that time. That was in 1903. Now, at that time, these people took it as an advantage, of course, to start fighting. I guess at times, someone, we have a proverb in my tribe that when you keep on pressing your nose a lot, you make it bleed. It starts bleeding. So these people, I guess, the German people knew that if we treat the Namibian or the Herero people so badly, they will respond, and this is what they wanted. So these people started responding. Actually, it was an open cold war for greed, for a reason of greed. So they had planned this, and when the Herero people, of course, responded to their bad or ill treatment, the German people now knew. First of all, they wrote a letter to German. They wrote a letter to German claiming that the Namibian people are raping the white women. Of course, they turned the game upside down. This ran all over the press, all over the newspapers, all over Germany and Europe. The Namibian people are raping the white women. They are killing them. All they wanted was sympathy. They wanted the Europeans all over, the colonizers, to feel sympathy. And of course, they won at that. After writing the letter, this, of course, in that due course, the Africans were still at it, demonstrating, rebelling against the German people. And that was not the first time. Sorry, they were rebelling. They are frying some stuff, so it's kind of choking me from the chicken. So, sorry. So, these people were rebelling against these very Germans. But as we continue, you realize that in every story of Africa's fall, there is always few Africans who betray others. So we see these German people coming in to sign treaties, of course, an agreement to sit down and solve issues with the Black people in Namibia at that time. And of course, the people in Namibia were like, we have no problem, All you want is to have our freedom. You cannot take our land forcefully. You cannot be raping our women. You cannot be killing us anyhow like we are animals. You cannot come and take away our cattle anyhowly. All we want, if you want to live here, let's live in peace. And so after, of course, that demonstration, 1903, the people, the heroic people in Namibia thought that now that we've talked with the German people, we have solved the issues. The German pretended like they have seized the fire. They pretended like, okay, we are cool with each other. Little did the people of Namibia know that the Germans were cooking something big at the time. Of course, what they were spreading all over Europe was their white women are being raped down in Africa. These people are so barbaric, they are like animals. And even if you're studying in the history of Africa, they will tell you that African people were so barbaric. They would eat you alive. They were so, they were cannibals eating you alive and all that sort of thing, because this is what the colonizers did. When they wanted to gain sympathy from the outside world, this is how they would paint Africa. So at that time, they painted Namibia, more especially the Kalahari Desert and the Harare people who were living in Namibia, around that place, that. So everyone was like, really? So these idiots, these black people, these monkeys are eating, raping white women, they're killing white men, they're doing all that kind of stuff, but these German people are the ones who are doing this. And actually, what I'm telling you today, this proof, recently people were demonstrating and they wanted a reparation because the colonels and the captains who were heading the war, the genocide in German, were always writing the things in written form, all their plans, and there is enough evidence to show that no African man was raping the German people in Namibia, but rather the Germans were raping these African women, because there were a lot of German mixed babies in the Namibia, and this is a sign that, of course, coming from the African women, so I don't think there was an African woman who was raping these white men at that time. So there is enough evidence to show that the German people were doing this, and of course they turned everything up around to make Europe feel sympathy, and of course to gather enough army to come and fight the Kalahari people. Now, these very people, the Herero people today, and they seem to be primitive, but these people were very exposed. They knew, because first of all, they're very exposed. They had weapons. They had a lot of things that the German people were always afraid of them. So they knew the only way they could win over these Namibians was to, of course, gather soldiers from all over Europe to come and help them. And the moment this, in 1903, the moment the Namibian people started rebelling against the German people started gathering soldiers to fight in every territory, to fight the Africans in every territory they were colonizing. So this genocide of the German people goes beyond even Hitler's genocide. But though the world does not tell people about what happened in Namibia, but the story of Namibia is very, very, painful. Now, like I always tell you, behind the pain of a lot of Africans, there are always those few sellouts who always, deal with the German people. Now, in Herali, there was one chief. He was called Ojimbingwe. Ojimbingwe was a known chief. He was respected between the Herari community. And when these people started this fight, and of course, him coming to the German people and telling them, you know what, we got to solve all this stuff, no more fighting. And he could go back to the Namibians or the Herari people in Namibia at that time and also tell them, you know what, that these German people are giving up. They're not going to fight with us. And that is, of course, what the German people used to use were the missionaries. And of course, the missionaries in Africa were people who were preaching the gospel. There were people who were trying to convert Africans into Christianity. Now, this Ojimbingwe chief, his name, of course, was Zacharias. His name was Zacharias. That means this chief was baptized into Christianity. That means this chief was a Christian. So this Ojimbingwe chief, Zacharias, was the mediator between the local people and the German people. Like I said, he was called Zacharias because he was baptized into Christianity. So he was the middleman. He was the mediator between the Black people in Namibia and the German people in Namibia. Now, Zacharias was being used by the German people. unknowingly, because all they thought, of course, they sent the missionaries because they knew he was somebody, he was a Christian and he believed in God and he believed in forgiveness and mercy, and we need to have peace and all that. So they used him. Remember, the Herero people in Namibia trusted him a lot because he was a chief, he was a head of that place. But now the only vice he had was that he was a Christian and he listened and believed a lot when it came to the missionaries. For these missionaries, the German missionaries who were there. So these German missionaries, of course, were used by the German imperialism to, of course, convince Zacharias that we are not going to fight them, we are at peace, whatever. You see, so Zacharias took back the information and told these other people that, yeah, these people are giving up. All they're saying is that they are going to stop doing what they are doing, so you can go back to your usual stuff, not knowing that there is going to be a transformation of a racial war in Namibia. Now, these Namibia people were quiet. So these Namibian people were quiet and they did not know that they were trying to cook something. As they went ahead, they went out with their usual activities, and that was until the 23rd of January. That was in 1904. The German troops opened fire to the Herero people in Namibia. This was happening on Mjimbingwe. Now, and of course, from Mjimbingwe, this was repeated all over the country, not only in Mjimbingwe, but everywhere. Fire, fire, fire from the German people, and of course, a lot of people died. Now, back in Germany, these very people wanted, a way to take over Namibia. We know their plans. First of all, they saw Namibia was a great place for them to start, for the farmers to start rearing their cattle. They saw Namibia had a very huge piece of land, which wasn't, occupied by very many people at that time. They saw that the population in Germany was increasing rapidly. They knew that if we do not overtake Namibia, we may not have a good place. If you remember, at that time, the German people were also in the US. But of course, the German people voted Namibia over New York. Because at that time, they had made a choice of either settling in New York or Namibia. And the most of them voted Namibia over New York. So I had a lot of German people in New York at that time. But they voted Namibia over. So you could see that now the German government had to put a lot of concentration on Namibia. Though they painted Namibian savages, that they're enemies, they rape the women, they painted, Herero people dark, that a lot of the Europeans and these other European nations were willing to come together to send an army that is going to overthrow or kill what they called savages in Namibia at that time. Now, 6 months, 6 months after the opening fire in Namibia, these people still had a plan of distracting the Herero people, destroying the Herero people. Now, their one plan they knew. First of all, Kalahari Desert is one of the biggest deserts. So these people knew if we do not try as much as possible to cleverly attack these people of Harare, they may defeat us. So as these people of Harare saw the open fire, and so that these people are firing to them, and yet they were not prepared, they started running. They moved, they left all the lands that were close to the German colony, and they moved deeper into the Kalahari Desert. And now these German people knew. You remember the Namibian Herero people are nomadics. So these people move with their cattle all over their place. They move from one place subsequently to another to raise their cattle. They go looking for water. And when these people moved, they decided to leave the German territories. They say, let's go deep into this desert. Probably we may have peace. Little did they know that these Germans are still planning for them. Now the German people went ahead and they maneuvered. They circled the entire Kalahari Desert. Remember, they had a lot of soldiers because we saw German bringing down an army straight from German down to Africa. Actually, they brought hundreds of soldiers, hundreds of colonial army. You know, they were sent from German, and with an aim. I quote, they usually say, this is a crusade for the labor's band. This is a crusade for the labor's band. That was their slogan as they marched all over the streets of Namibia. Hundreds, they were in hundreds, of course, from Germany. Now, their motto was, this world is being redistributed, and with the time we will need more space, and only by the sword we will be able to get it. This is a matter for our generation and for our existence. This was their purpose, and this was their reason. This is a crusade for the liberal bands. This world is being redistributed, and with the time we will need more space, and only by the sword we will be able to get it. This is a matter for our generation and for our existence. Now, the German people, the German soldiers fought with the strength and everything they got in them because they had a purpose for their existence. They had a purpose for their generation. They had a purpose to create more space, and only by the sword, they would only by the sword will they be able to acquire the dream of the land. Now, the German soldiers were very ready to give up everything because they were fighting for that generation and the existence of the German people all over the world. They knew that Africa is the best place they can settle in. Africa is the only center where they can base for them to create or, produce, recreate, and expand their territories all over the world. Now, that was their mission. But Africans, little did they know, and I guess if we actually still understand the matrix of these people. But the German people were so very open because they laid this on documents. They marched preaching these very words I mentioned. So everyone in Namibia at that time heard what they were saying, though others did not really understand the language, but those who did knew that these people are not here for child's play. They're here to kill us all so that they can possess our land. So on the 11th of August, 1904, that is when all this began. The plan of killing all the people of Harare, because they were in a place that the German people found fit, the place they loved, the place they felt that is only suitable for them. Imagine you're coming to my land. This is my ancestral home. This is where my ancestors have been for a very long time from Genesis. And you're coming to tell me this land is suitable for you because you're a German and you had the ability to, of course, colonize me. And now this place is so very favorable for the farmers from Germany. Of course, we got to kill these black idiots, and we have to to take this place and everything about it. This is our home. And of course, hypocrites, painting African savages. That's why in every book they be writing African people are savage, because this is the message the colonizers sent just to gain sympathy, and of course for the excuse of their actions to the world. Hitler had this same living space ideology. I hate to imagine what he would have done if he had won World War II. These guys with this space ideology, of course, we know it was brought about by a professor in Germany whom everyone idolized and all that stuff. Because for them, they felt like we should reproduce. You want to reproduce and fill the entire world with German people, but you don't want other people to expand. What kind of hypocrisy is that? So when you think you are the only people who have the right to live on earth compared to others, and if you know your land is too small, okay, you can stop producing. Do that spacing, do the family planning, like I'll be bringing that plan down to Africa all the time. So yes, I guess Hitler was a scholar of that idiot professor who built this in the minds of course, of the people in Germany at that time. So the plan of these people, knowing that we have to overtake the people in Kalahari, at that time they circled them. Even when the Harari people decided to leave, the lands which were close to the German close to the German, barracks and ports and whatever, they decided to march deeper into the Kalahari Desert. They went deep just for them to have peace. Still, these Germans were not ready to let the Africans in Namibia have peace, more especially the people in the Herero district at that time. So what did they do? Of course, they had a plan of surrounding the entire desert. They surrounded the entire desert. Remember, at that time, they had soldiers which were sent down to Africa from Germany. They surrounded the entire desert, and they knew that they have got the Africans. There is only one water body that passes through, at least one big water body that passes through the Kalahari Desert. So what they did, the German people went on that water body, and they had to write a letter to the Herero people telling them that we are going to kill you, whether you like it or not. Any Herero man who has whether you have a gun or not, whether you are pregnant or not, whether you are a mother or not, young or old, we do not care. And at that time, it was Francois who was leading that army of German people. He was General Francois who was leading that army. So after writing this message, taking down to the Herero people where they had camped, they knew we are going to die. Their animals started dying because these people were all over the water bodies. And remember, the Harari people were living in a desert area, in a semi-desert area. So these people, some of them died, others died of starvation. The animals started dying because they ate everything around. Now these people could not move from there. And whoever they would come across, of course, they would kill. Now, after killing these people, of course, some other colonial masters heard about this, and some other people were, of course, rejecting this. So because of some external pressure all over Namibia, because of other people who heard about what was happening in Herero, these Bazungu started collecting them. Now, you know, like they always do, they change face. If it is not Maria, they will bring Joby. Okay, so they removed this general who was leading, and they brought another German man. And this German man started pretending like he's preaching peace, started telling the people, you know, we got to have peace and all that. So people started coming. Remember, others have died. Millions have died already. Now they're coming out from their hideout, because they are seeing another new face, and this commander is preaching peace. Little did they know this was plan B of these commanders, and they had to put these people on cars, and they moved them as refugees to towns, you know, which was fully occupied by the German. Now, this town was called Swakamanda. The Swakamanda was a place which was fully occupied by Germans. First of all, Swakamanda was very cold. I guess the Germans saw like Swakamanda was good, for it was similar to German. There was coldness in Swakamanda, and they knew where the Herero people were is where the German farmers were going to settle. These people had distributed Namibia. So Akamanda was where they are going to live for everything, and their farmers were going to live where the Herero people were living at that time. These few Herero people who were moved from Kalahari down to Swakamanda town, which was fully occupied by the desert people, of course, had to go a lot. They were sold into slavery. They became, labor, slaves. They started doing a lot of hard labor, and they were being sold, as labor slaves to other German people. And then these German people, of course, started having a lot, concentration camps where they used to keep these Herero people. They have these concentration camps where they used to keep the Hereros, and they were keeping them under chains. They would chain them. They would chain their legs, chain their wrists and their necks. And they even had markets where they were selling them to rich people. They were selling them to a lot of colonizers. So with whoever colonizer wanted, labor or people to do some, slavery stuff, they would come and buy those people from the concentration centers or camps and markets. So actually the German people, these German people started mistreating the Namibians terribly on their own land. And they so very much wanted these people to leave Namibia because all they wanted was to occupy Namibia and become the settlers in Namibia at that time. We've heard a lot of stories of genocides in Africa. But as we study about genocide, these stories are never told. And you know, these people really disrespected us a lot because they were doing things openly, and they knew that what Africans, first of all, cannot fight for them, whether they know it or not. You know, they were so barbaric and savages in a way that they were so you know, not feeling sorry for anything that was happening to the black people. But yet again, they were turning this upside down, because if you read most of their books, they're like Africans were savages. A savage is someone who will come and rape your wife in front of you. A savage is a man who will come and rape your little girl. A savage is someone who will just come and kill you for, you know, yeah, Jibi Jaba says that he did not know any of these. Thanks for enlightening. Thank you so much, Jibi Jaba. So a savage is somebody, you know, who doesn't really care about other people's feelings. Being traditionally and you know, doing practicing my culture has got nothing to do with this being a savage, but rather you doing inhuman acts. Okay, that is the savage. They are the savage ones. You're gonna come around and be raping these women in front of their husbands, killing these men just because you want to drive them crazy. You want them to start a riot. You want them, they used to call them rebellions at that time. You wanted them to start rebellion so that you can, you know, you can do whatever you want. And then you start calling them savage. You start calling those people savage at that time. So no, you know, so no, that is inhuman. So no, you know, what time period was this ongoing? Jibijaba is asking. Our time was this. Actually, this was around 1903. That's when all the disunity started, and the killing started around the 23rd of January 1904. The people in Namibia, of course, started in 1903. That's when they started, you know, rebelling against the Germans. And with these little rebellions, Germans could come and try to fight. They fight, they end disputes. And I think when the Namibian people actually told the Germans, we are not giving you land, you're not taking our women for free, you're not doing that bullshit if you want to stay here in peace with us, or else we shall show you who we are. So the German people were like, okay, we got you. We have to treat you the way, you know, we've been treating these other people. So for them, opening fire, of course, was in 1903. That's when they were fighting against this little rebellion. But the real massacre was on the 23rd of January 1904, because that's when Germans sent down the troops. Actually, they were sending the troops in phases, but that's when we see the German troops marching to open fire to against the Namibian people in the Harare. That was the 23rd of January 1904. We see troops from all over the European nation, troops from Germany opening fire to the Harare people of Namibia. So yes, like 6 months. Actually, this fight took a duration of 6 months. I'm talking about the one that started on the 23rd of January 1903. We saw rebellions. It was just a little scratch. So Africans relaxed, not knowing the German people are cooking something huge, sending troops from 1903, sending troops, and then on the 23rd of January, of course, a lot of troops had reached Africa, and then we see them opening fire to the people of Harare. This fight from 23rd of January took a duration of like 6 months, with their killing Black people. A duration of 6 months, non-stop, using their canoes, using all the weapons they got. 6 months. Now you can imagine how many people died. It records over 16 million Namibians died in that genocide. And like we know, the purpose as to why they were carrying that out. So they were not concerned. Their purpose was to kill. They were not fighting to defend. So all these issues of the Africans being savages and all that is wrapped around their very motto that they used to say, this is a crusade for the Libyans ban. So if that means they had this crusade of killing these people to create land for the German people, so that these Germans can relocate to Namibia, so that they can relocate. They wanted to use it as a center to create, to strengthen their legacies, to expand their existence. And they were saying this in broad daylight. So yes, thank you for that question, GB Jama. Thank you so much. So on the 11th of August, 1904, we saw this very general planning to encircle the entire desert. And they knew the only place they left open was only the place that was, the only road they left open was only leading to the forts of the German people. And as they were fighting these people on the 11th of August, 1904, we see a lot of Africans in Namibia at that time trying to run for their life, and of course heading towards the forts of these German people. And what was awaiting for them was, of course, death. A lot of people, a lot of mothers died, a lot of heroic men and women and young children lost their life. Because for them, they told them, we do not care whether you have a gun or not, whether you have come with your hands up, we are going to sweep you. So it was up to you to either march to these people or run, whichever choice you make. You were still going to be killed by these German people. Okay, so we saw that war taking over through driving to August. Africans are still dying. Now in 1905, it's when we see these people trying to cease fire. And of course, sorry. I'm still working. Thank you. Thank you, both. So that's when we see these people seizing fire, and they bring another general, of course, because now, Africans were so many. Okay, they seized fire and they told them, okay, we are at peace. We are at peace. That was 1905 now. 1903, they start rebellion. 04, war, killing Africans for approximately 6 months and all that. 1905, they come in as, of course, heroes. They are sending another phase of Germans from German to come and start telling Africans, what, because now they know we cannot finish you all. So now what? We have to end this killing. So you guys have to drive to the capital, and the capital where they were taking them, of course, was also filled with the German people. That is Swakopmund. Swakopmund was occupied by Germans, fully occupied by Germans. Swakopmund did not have Black people around. So it was occupied by the Germans. Now, all these people were carried as refugees. How even can you be brought as a refugee in your own homeland? They are brought down to Swakopmund. and they were treated mercilessly. They were sold into slavery. These people were put in concentration camps, of course, and a lot of bad things were committed, you know, against these people at that time. And it records like 16 million Herero people were killed during this very time. A very painful moment for the Black people we live to remember. I hate the fact that some people think we do not have the right to talk about history. I hate the fact that some people feel like you cannot be blaming. If we talk about these stories and what is happening right now, really, you don't want us to blame? Which African has gone out there and done this? You don't want us to blame? We shouldn't talk about that. Sorry, I don't know. I think I'm gonna have a cough. Oh shit. So you don't want people to talk about this. It happened in Namibia. A lot of people died. Over 16 million Herero people died. And like I said, Zacharias, the chief, in whom the Herero people believed because he was their leader, but was stupidly blinded by religion, because for you to be named Zacharias, you must have been baptized into Christianity. So he was the mediator between the Herero people and, of course, the German people. And the Herero people believed in him so much that when he told them to cease fire, everything has been settled. They also believed him. Little did he also know that he was being used as a medium to kill his own people. Zacharias was left by the German so that he can witness and see what has been done to his people. And he became a laughing stock. Zacharias could not believe what the German people had done to the Herero people, that he had to end his own life. Because in his words, he said, if I had not told my people to put down their weapons, that there is peace, the German people would have never even won this war. They would have never killed my people. They were never killing Zacharias. They wanted him to stand there and watch. Stupidly, they also sent missionaries to Zacharias. These are people who made him convert from Africanism to Christianity. They came and convinced him, and Zacharias did not know the missionaries are playing the same game with the German people. So as they were killing other people, they were making sure that Zacharias stays alive to watch them, take over the entire Herero community, the entire Herero area. And that is how Zacharias felt very, very disappointed in himself, to the point that he took his life at that time, because he was the chief of the Herero people. Until today, we see the Kalahari Desert is very dense populated, actually. Is where, if anyone has ever watched the movie of the Bushmen and all that, those people were fighting all over that place. At that time, Kalahari Desert became the land of the skull, because a lot of dead Africans were there. We see a lot of mixed German blood with the Africans in Namibia, actually, because the Germans really, when they saw that we are failing to kill all the Africans, now we must print our genes in the African women in Namibia. So they continued to make sure that they impregnate these Namibian women in order to have their children, probably for future use. Who knows? Of course, we have seen them betray. We have seen those mixed people trying to, they are always confused on which side to stand and all that. But the German people did that, started forcing themselves, and which created a very terrifying thing in the minds of the Namibian young women at that time, that even the men could look at the mothers or the women in Namibia, and before even married to, the first thing that crosses his mind at that time was like, maybe he has ever been raped by a Mzungu. And a lot of, you know, Namibian women, in order for them to, you know, show their man that I did not sleep with them, made sure that at least they secure their virginity to prove that they never lied with the, you know, Mzungu. I wonder if people can find you so disgusting like this, how would they even rape you? Whatever. Thank you very much, guys, for watching Black Hot Fire Network. It has been me, Africa Maria from Uganda. See you tomorrow, same time. Thank you, Jimmy Jama, for coming through. Brian Davidson, thank you for coming through. How I did not read this. The Germans pursued them into the desert and wanted to kill them all. Public opinion caused the Kaiser to order him to stop. After this, the Harari people were worked to death in concentration camps. This is where the German learned the death camps technique that they used on the fake Jews during the World War II, when they were led by Hitler. Jim Jabba, you can read Dwight Davidson's comment. Yes, and yes, and yes. That is true. This is where they learned that technique. This is where they learned that death camps technique. Because their purpose was to kill. So even when they brought that new face of that German leader down to Namibia, when the Namibian people came to be taken to, you know, that town thinking that there is peace, still they wanted to kill them. And then they brought those concentration camps where Namibians were tortured and done every sort of dirty thing just to kill them. And of course, they used this very technique in World War II by Hitler. Oh, thank you very much, Dwight Davidson, for that great comment. Namibia was very ignorant of their own history. Religion is designed to bind you psychologically and remove us from our divinity. Mass generation is to destroy our DNA. Thank you very much, Lando, for that comment. Thank you very much for coming through, guys. Yeah, that is true. I agree with you 100%. Thank you very much, Joy Davidson, Jibijaba, Lando. Thank you so much, guys, for coming through. And for those who have watched my show, and see for those who watched the replay of this show, thank you so very much for loving Black Hot Fire Network. It has been me, Africa Maria. See you tomorrow. This has been Namibia's Genocide. Till tomorrow. Bye. Bye.